Hello and welcome to Entitled, where we talk to the practitioners, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs of the real estate industry. I'm Bernie Espinosa, my co-host David Bellinger.
Hi, everyone.
And we work in the title industry. Therein lies the fun little name of our podcast. And today we've put together an amazing ensemble panel of three powerhouse lenders in the real estate industry, both locally and nationally. But before we start talking about them and introducing them, Mr. Bellinger, any opening thoughts? And how many Red Bulls have you had today?
I'm still on my first, so I'm good.
I don't believe you.
I'm good. Not even jittery. So, hey, what a great panel. All-star panel is what I call it. And, just to find out what's going on in the market right now from the lending side is just going to be, that's what we all need to know right now.
Absolutely. And, I think that what happens in lending impacts the ebb and flow of the real estate industry locally, nationally, and I think it's going to be fantastic to hear from these three in terms of their knowledge from a national perspective, interest rates, tariffs, how they're impacting the real estate community locally, and then most importantly, too, their wisdom. I mean, all of them have a wealth of experience that goes deep.
Yeah, and the amount of consumers they all speak with, right, on a day-to-day basis, and can really tell us what they're hearing from the front lines.
Absolutely. So let's start with some intros. You want to introduce anybody?
Let's do it. No, you have the honors.
Okay.
Actually, no, I want to introduce somebody.
I'm like, I know you want to introduce Jen.
I want to introduce somebody because I caught her, we send out obviously a questionnaire, things that, about them so we can learn a little bit more. And this person, especially after I just met her for the last 10 minutes, really surprised me because literally it says right here, anything you'd especially like the host to mention. Yeah. So I'm going to mention that. Hers was, I am shy. So this is Jennifer Tulcan with Connect Mortgage. Yes. And in the 10 minutes I've met her, I never would have put she is shy on her profile sheet.
I thought she was messing with us.
Yeah, right. So what a ball of energy, I guess you could say. So that's great. And welcome and thank you for being here.
Jennifer founded Connect Mortgage. She's been in the industry for almost 20-ish years.
20 plus
years.
Only go with the plus.
Yes, and I'm very passionate about simplifying the experience for the consumers. And also really what I would say is focused and knows what she wants in terms of how she runs her business. So a thought leader, all three of you embody thought leadership, entrepreneurship, and are practitioners. So you've never gotten away from actually doing the business, but the influence that you create in your businesses is pretty, very respectful what you've done. And then we've got Chad Melin, who is the Division Vice President for Synergy One Lending. And we were just reminiscing. I mean, Chad, gosh, it's got to be close to 20 years that, because I think when I met you, I just learned how to snowboard. So I must have been in my 30s. So
Yeah, 20 plus.
20 plus,
we'll
yeah.
Leave that plus on there, huh?
Yeah, so Chad is very influential in our local market, is also now on a speaker circuit, training, coaching. Synergy One Lending has actually headed up quite a few mergers and acquisitions in the lending space, and probably, one of the top well-read individuals in our real estate market, and economically speaking, just as much. So,
well, thank you.
You're so welcome.
That's a lot.
Chad's like, that's the nicest things Bernie ever said about me.
I'm gonna have to invest more into Audible. Thanks.
That's awesome. And then we have Tom Mason with Fairway Mortgage. And Tom is I've always really messed up and always said, Tom used to be a teacher, but it's kind of like an inside joke now. But the reality is that Tom is so good about sharing and explaining how things work in the mortgage space, breaks it down to where I can understand it, in terms of products, resources, and how things work. Leads a team, is a branch manager, also double digits in the mortgage space, and leads a team, branch manager, and one of the top originators in our market.
And let me add, just because I've been at many events with Tom, and that's where I first met you, Tom, you're at every event. You know what I mean? You're not just behind the scenes. You are out there in line.
I try.
Yeah.
It's hard with kids, but you got to get out there.
Yes, been there, done that.
Yeah. No, so we're really grateful to have you guys here. I think today, let's have fun. Let's talk about things that are top of mind for you. I think for David and I, when we really thought about putting this together was, everybody wants to talk to, we love talking to the realtors too, but the realtors have a different perspective. I think lending is the kaleidoscope, so to speak, of what's happening economically, what's happening with interest rates, what's happening with different product lines. You guys get to see really what's happening on the consumer side, and you're also working directly with the realtor community, right? So I guess, first question would be, if you were to kind of say, like, here's what I see happening in a nutshell right now, what does that look like for you, Tom?
In a nutshell, I'd say there's a lot of demand out there for purchasing, whether that's first-time home buyers or move-up buyers. A lot are locked in really low rates, obviously, right now, if they're move-up buyers. First-time home buyers are a little restricted because of affordability here, specifically in Maricopa County. But we are seeing the demand. I think inventory is holding us back a little bit on that, but seems like good houses that go up for sale, priced right, are selling pretty quick at the same time.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's pretty coincides, I think, with a lot of what we're seeing too.
Good.
What about you, Chad? You kind of see things from a local and national perspective.
Yeah, I look at, there was a saying that we had for the last year and a half was for lenders and probably real estate agents is survive to 2025 because it's going to get better. A lot of people predicted rates are going to be so much better in 2025 post-election. And there's a lot of uncertainty, whether you're one of the top economic people in the nation. I really look at how are people leveraging technology to the masses. I think that is really the future of what is happening in our space. If you look at mortgage lenders, 3 years ago, there was 423,000 licensed MLOs around the country. Now there's, and you can fact check me if you want, I'm not sure if I'm right, but it's going to ballpark, around 93,000.
Wow.
There's a big opportunity there. And there's a lot of people that might be in Maricopa County, or I cover all over the country, and where I'm seeing people having success, whether you're a real estate agent or a lender, they're getting licensed in multiple states, or if you're a real estate agent, you're part of a bigger referral network where you can do business, say in Ohio, where you can buy a house for $250,000, or in some parts of Texas where you can buy houses for $275,000. Versus we have offices in Whitefish, Montana. They're super expensive. Well, you have to expand your market and you have to expand your reach to different areas to be able to do more business.
And therein lies the need for the technology, not just because it's necessitated now, but also if you're going to have a broader reach, right? Are you guys all licensed in multiple states? I know you are, Tom. Yeah.
See, and it used to seem that the licensing in different states were, I have a home there or I have family there, so I might as well be licensed there. Now it's more intentional, right? Just like you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. I can talk to people all over the country at once. Like there might be people all over the country that are going to see this podcast. Instead of having all these hand-to-hand, one-on-one conversations,
right.
We still need to always be our local expert, but reach out and speak to more people, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because I always tell my kids or anybody, what is the most rewarding thing that you did that was super easy?
Oh,
it's hard.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So get a little bit uncomfortable. You talk to most of your agents, most of your clients over the phone or through some type of digital communication. Just expand your reach.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Jen? Nutshell. We'll dive deeper, but what
On
are
the
kind of-
market?
Yeah.
Bunch of weirdos, man. It is weirdo central.
From the shy one.
Right.
But wait, the
Everything,
realtors, the
everything.
consumers,
The
like
transaction.
Okay.
There's going to be some weirdness. It's a different market, right? If the borrower's good, the seller's good, title's going to have some problems, right? There's going to be something. Every transaction is really challenging.
Interesting.
But not bad. I like a puzzle, so I think it's great. There's less LOs in the market, so there's a lot more opportunity. But it's going to be a challenge. And I think saying it's not is a lie.
Right.
Because every buyer, it's kind of that triple Ds. My mom was in real estate when I was younger, and she talked about the 3 Ds. Death, default, and divorce.
Yeah.
Keeps the market going always, no matter what the market's doing. But in that comes a lot of chaos and a lot of weird transactions.
Tell your mom that on the 3 Ds, Tom Ferry now has like 12 Ds. We can post that list later.
Right.
Yeah.
She's been out of real estate for a while.
But I mean, to her point, she started a good 3 Ds because there's a whole bunch of them now.
Right. There's so many of them.
Mike Ferry started with 3.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's right where it came from.
What are you guys thinking in terms of locally speaking, like so in our Phoenix marketplace here? You said survived through 25. Where do you think we're going next? Do you think that there's going to be some ease for the real estate community? Is there going to be some ease for the consumer? Where do you see interest rates going? Everybody always wants to talk about interest rates.
Go for it. All right, Tom, go for it. You're the local expert here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. The last 2-3 years, like he was saying, survive to 25 was in hopes that rates would have come down by now and it would free up a lot of that inventory that people were stuck in. But hasn't happened yet. They've dipped down a little bit, and people, I think, are kind of getting sick of waiting for rates and starting to buy again. You need another bedroom. You're having more kids. You want a pool. So, yeah, you're going to move up and purchase another home, regardless of what rates are. If they're in the 7s, 8s, yeah, it makes it real tough. But if we can get them down in the 5s, low 6s, mid 6s, then I think
action.
Yeah.
We saw a huge uptick. March? Was it March?
It was 2 days in March when the rate
It was
dipped
2
real
days
quick.
in March.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
you
was a
can
good
literally,
dip, though.
There's
It
been a
was
couple.
good
Yeah.
dip.
you could see
And
it
the
right
last
on the
year
graph.
we had
It's
one,
literally a
and-
dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a couple, but yeah, if you didn't strike then, it's really hard to capture those and time it correctly.
How have you been working with your agents in terms of, staying connected, helping them through this market? Do they seek you out for some wisdom, ideas,
Just trying to stay
intel?
connected to them as
Yeah.
much as possible consistently. You never know when they're going to have a buyer or buyers out there. So I try and keep them updated on what rates are doing every week. So just to give them an idea, I don't expect them, or they probably don't want to deep dive into what the economy is doing and what rates are doing, but just to give them an idea of where we end for the week, and they can, speak intelligibly to that and say, hey, rates are 6.7, 6.8. Just to have an idea for those buyers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people are getting to a place where they have to do things in their life, like life events are happening, and it's kind of like, I guess these are the interest rates, right?
Right. Yeah.
How about you guys?
And one of the things to add is, I think when people say, are rates getting better? Are
Right.
they going to get better? It's kind of a loaded question, because if I ask both of these guys how many loans that they've done for self-employed borrowers that are different than they did 2-3 years ago, like a DSCR loan, a bank statement loan, is a big influx of more flexibility for self-employed borrowers than there was 2, 3, 4 years ago. And it's becoming a very well-known and a common practice where we see a lot more bank statement loans, DSCR loans going through, a lot more creative financing that the marketplace is comfortable with. So it's, again, not only expanding your reach to be able to do business in states where there's more home affordability, there's less loan officers. What is your knowledge base on programs? Are you working with someone that has the ability to do a lot of different programs, and they have the knowledge? And those rates are actually lower for a bank statement loan today than they were 2-3 years ago.
Right.
So there are some opportunities, but you have to work with someone that has the knowledge, and who's really your trust validator in the industry.
I love
Who
that
do you
term.
lean on? The fake meta platform stuff, or this or that, get rich through some meme coin, or who's your trust validator? And that's who you really need to lock arms with.
And really understand what's available. It's more
100%.
consultative than anything else, right?
Most people would rather play slightly more in an interest rate, and to be able to be a little bit more creative and follow all the tax laws and write off a lot of their self-employment income. They're going to have more money to make payments, and you really have to work with someone. I know both these guys are very financially savvy
Product
about
lines.
looking at your house as an asset, and it's about structuring your whole household payments, not just your mortgage payment.
Right. Remind everybody what the DSCR loan is.
Do you guys do any DSCR
I do a
loans?
lot of them.
I know
We actually
you
work
do
early
too.
adopters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tom
so
does too.
why don't you give an example of why you do a DSCR loan?
So you don't have to document all your other income,
right,
right?
yeah.
You're treating the house, it's more commercial based. So you're looking at the property as an investment, and does the investment make sense instead of does the borrower make sense? Still takes some factors into the borrower, but it's looking what is the cash flow compared to the mortgage payment, which is a really great product for sure.
Are you guys both doing a lot of DSCR and bank statement loans?
Yeah, here and there. Especially for self-employed borrowers that, like he said, instead of telling a borrower, 5 years ago, we used to say, hey, you got to file more income, so they're paying more taxes and use that income. Now they can take those tax deductions and then use that bank statement loan or the DSCR loan that makes a little more sense.
That's awesome.
I think rate doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't think the rates matter, because the people in my company that are doing really well don't follow the rates. The people that are struggling more follow the market and the
Absolutely.
rates. And they're obsessed with, are the rates going to get better? I'm getting shopped. This is,
Yeah.
and we're a broker, right? So we have
Right.
all rates, we have access to everything, and people are still feeling like they're getting shopped if they're focused on rate. But it's more about what does a client want? Do they want the fastest closing? Do they want the lowest rate, which maybe they do, and that's going to be a different process? Do they want an ease of transaction? That's
Yeah.
a different,
And
it's-
also affordability.
affordability
Right?
is, and I think
And
affordability
so for
is
higher
probably
net
the
worth
number one. Yeah.
individuals, that's not going to be as much of a factor.
And the total closing
that's why
costs
that's
in
my
the
market.
deal, right? Someone can say, "Hey, I'm getting you lower," but they're just not paying attention to the total closing cost in the deal.
Right.
Well, that's how they're getting you lower.
Right.
And so that kind of wants me to ask, what are you guys? Are you still seeing a lot of deals with rate buy downs?
The temporary buy downs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few of those. The sellers seem to be a little less eager to pay those right now. But yeah, we're still utilizing those. It's a good way for a family who's, expecting to have more income in the future
Okay.
to get a little lower for their first couple months. But yeah, it really comes down to if the
First couple
sellers are willing to
months.
pay it.
Yeah.
Or a couple
Is
years.
it, I mean, like it's the short term buy down now is really short, isn't it?
Well, you can do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still the
yeah.
same. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of segueing into what we were wanting to talk about now anyway, you guys are already kind of organically talking about it, is products. Like what are there any products now that you think are being, offered up to the buyers that are helping them get into homes better? Are there, different kinds of products? Like, what are you guys seeing on that along
The
those
bank
lines?
statement product's my favorite.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
the one I use the most. For
Yeah.
self-employed, that's probably my go-to because it doesn't matter
And-
if it's primary, second, or investment
And
property.
how many, so because you're probably working with some folks who can come to you directly, but how many times are you able to educate the realtors about being able to bring
Yes.
these kinds of things up?
Well, what I tell all realtors and my loan officers is like, bring us everything, right? And then we'll find the solution. And so our partners they're not as involved in
Okay.
that. They just bring the people and then they know we have the solutions. So we probably could do a much better job educating them about the different programs, but we have a really great group of trust with our partners. And so they trust that if they bring us somebody, we're going
Right.
to find a solution.
Yeah.
Plus, you probably have some realtors that just need to know, right? They want to know all of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, okay, hold tight there. Don't explain it like that. Let me explain it. But it's still good knowledge for them, maybe if they run into a particular situation.
The realtor brings the dream, right?
Right.
And the dream of home ownership, showing them the beautiful home, but the loan officer makes that dream happen.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think it works best when those two are separate, right? That the realtor knows they're going to send it to someone who's going to make the dream happen, but they don't know all those details. Because we're seeing someone pretty much naked when we pull their credit. Right? We're seeing all their bad
And you're
choices.
so shy.
We're seeing everything. I really am. But it is a true fact. You see so much, right? And people apologize to us. They're like, "I'm so sorry that I meant to pay that credit card down." You're like, "I'm not your wife, man." Like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You spend the money
It's like
on
checking
that.
out of a hotel. I didn't rent that movie. I don't know what you saw.
Now everything's coming out.
It totally is that way. So I
Right.
just think it's two different relationships.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and so
And
I
it
like
works
to
really
keep it
good
that.
for you then.
That's how
yeah,
it works
I like,
for me.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting. What about you guys in terms of,
I think,
Product
like they
line.
mentioned, bank statement, DSCR, great. Bridge loans have made really big comeback, I think, in the last year or two. Whether they're accessing that equity in their current house to go non-contingent or just using it for the down payment, it's a really creative way to get people into a house sooner than they might be able to.
Yeah, one thing that's becoming a lot more popular is there's a lot of people that have a really low rate and they have equity and they love that low rate. But if you look at your house as your asset and you're going to try to figure out how can I afford just to live and make my payments, what's become a lot more popular, faster and easier with technology, with automated appraisals, you don't have to do an appraisal, is be able to tap into your equity to reconsolidate some of your debt, but keep your main mortgage a little bit lower. We all have stories where somebody comes in, they apologize, I just spent a bunch on credit cards or car, or they had a life event, or they took a dream vacation with their family before their kids went off to college, and you ask them, how much debt do I have? They're like, 200,000. You're like, whoa! But their house might be worth 800,000. They owe
Right.
300, so they
Yeah.
can get some equity really quick, reposition everything to be ready for an opportunity where there's people that save $2,000 a month, and the ease of use to be able to do these equity lines that are available for lenders to do now I think that's another opportunity you see a lot more of.
That's cool. I mean, I guess for you guys, these are regular products that you're seeing on more frequently, where for some people, they might sound like unique or creative products. And I think it's kind of cool that you guys are kind of elaborating on what's available, because I'm betting that a lot of the real estate community doesn't know, forgets about, or doesn't set up the conversation to discuss other resources outside of like a traditional mortgage.
Well, it goes back to what you said, Jennifer, right? They trust you.
Yeah.
They trust all of
Yeah.
you. No, just trust me. I'm not sure what's out there, but if anybody's going to know it, Jennifer's going to know
Yeah.
it. Tom's, you know what I mean? They trust
Well,
that you're going to find the solution.
And I love Chad's terminology. Who's your trust validator?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using
is
that.
nice.
Yeah.
Who's your
Go-
trust validator?
Go ahead and
But
use
I
it.
like what you said about the seconds too, because some people, it makes more sense to add that casita, right? The second unit or whatever, build a second home on the property if they're able to, versus selling because of just the way the market is, the inventory available. We've had a few situations where people thought they could sell their home and downsize, pay off their debt, get a different home, and then they went under contract and are very upset about it because they've realized they're only going to save $200, but they're getting a much worse house. You know,
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
mind, before they talk to a lender, right, and before they really talked through the numbers with the agent, they thought that was the right move, and it wasn't really the right move for them.
right. Because they didn't know it was an option, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all those are examples of meeting with that client and talking through the options they're going to have, what their goals are. I mean, send an online application and pre-qualifying someone. You don't get that face-to-face like we used to have with our clients anymore. So at least talking to them on the phone, going through a loan application, talking through all that for them, and then you can decide, hey, maybe a bridge loan's great, maybe a home equity line of credit, accessing those products and making sure it fits for whatever they're looking to do.
It's funny that you said that because I wrote it down, Chad, when you said it, you know, with all the technology, right? But I wrote down, you know, what part of all that technology is actually maybe not the greatest and scares you. And the face-to-face is something that's missed up front.
Right.
I totally see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can utilize Zoom calls, Teams calls to at least get that camera face-to-face with them and go over it. And then you're not just, like I said, sending a link for an online application and then going from there.
I seldom do the link for an online application. I still produce, even as the owner, and I don't like it. I think you miss so much opportunity. I
agree.
encourage
Yeah.
so many people not to do the online application. Take it yourself, get the story from them, and then use the technology after that fact to make it
Agreed.
an ease of transaction. But there's so, like, I just get annoyed when you go to the doctor, right? And you put in why you're going to the doctor, then you get to the receptionist, they ask you why, get all the
Oh, yeah.
paperwork, they ask you why.
All the
Then
redundancy.
the nurse, they ask you why. And then the doctor walks in and doesn't read any of it, comes up with something totally different. And you're like, I really felt like no one heard me. I feel like when you take the application yourself, you really hear the person.
And I'm the exact opposite. I love
That's
to,
great, though.
I
I
love
love
to
it.
scale with the application because when I go to the doctor's office and I get there, my appointment's at 10, and they hand me a clipboard and I got to write all this stuff out with a crappy Bic pen. I'm like, do you got something that works here? You know, and I'm scribbling around. I'm like, can you give me an online form I can fill out? And then when we get back to the trust validator, I'm a big thing. Hey, I know you're working today. We need your application. Your agent wants to get your pre-qual out. Hey, why don't you fill out the app on phone or on your computer? A lot of people, their computer now is their phone. I talk to people, I'm
sure.
like, you got a computer? They're like, yeah, right here. I'm like, really? That's it?
Yeah.
But that's what they use. And the ease of use with a lot of apps, they can put in all their information, get accurate information, typing in numbers, because most people, you can read their typing better than you can their handwriting. Then the
I wouldn't
important.
send what are you
Well,
talking about?
no.
Like with a pencil
I know,
and
I'm
paper?
just
I'm
kidding.
like,
Like at
come
the
on,
doctor's
man.
office.
What are you talking
The doctor's office example.
I'm like, who's taking the application?
Yeah,
Like,
they're
here,
like,
fill this
what medications are you on? I'm like, I can't even spell half of them.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
you do have to, like these guys said, go over everything.
Yeah.
It's going to save people time. They can do their application when they're at work, because when they say people are working, they're not really working. They're doing other stuff.
Right.
Do your application, but we got to be that trust validator, and it's, you know, trust but verify.
Yeah.
And go over everything in the system, because some people, they might say, hey, my name's Chad, and it might be something different. They might use their middle name.
Right.
It allows me to validate a lot of that information a little bit quicker and
Yeah.
in a team setting. But I agree, you have to go over everything with everybody because nobody wants a big whammy at the end.
Right. I mean, even though both of you have, all three of you have a slightly different approach towards the technology piece, you're leveraging technology to enhance the human experience, right? So at the end of the day, whether you're on the front end of it or on the back end of it, there's still human touch involved in creating a relationship and making sure that everything is, correct, right?
Right. And to Chad's point, there's so much within the applications we have now where they can verify assets, they can verify employment. So it allows us not to have to say, hey, can you send me 2 months bank statements? It's all built into
I
that
love that.
application when they do it online. Yeah.
Well, and
That's one of the good pieces of the better pieces of
better
technology.
pieces,
Yeah.
If you can
I'm
remember your
guessing-
passwords.
If they,
Yeah.
It's all in the cloud. Don't worry about it.
I'm guessing too for for a consumer, it makes them feel a little bit insulated from, like they're doing it privately, right? Even though they know you're going to see the information, you're not like taking in all their bad financial mistakes or whatever.
Transactions and everything, yeah.
Well, and age has got to play into it as well, right? I mean, the younger generation that's coming up right now, you ask them to go to the doctor and actually write down information. They're like, it looks like they're trying to multiply huge numbers together. Like they don't
can't
get
write.
it. Where's
They don't
my
even know
iPad?
they don't even know how to write.
Where's my iPad to fill out all my information?
Yeah, and I look at the ease of use for the consumer. So if I'm in the far East Valley, someone's in the West Valley, and they're like, hey, when can you drive and come to my office? They're like, never.
Right.
Okay, and so you can use that piece. I'm a big Zooms. I'm bilingual in technology, Zoom and Teams, I say. I can do
You're
either,
gonna use
either
that one too, aren't you?
Yeah, either one, because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do the other one. Or what if you're doing a loan for someone out of state? You're going to do that over the phone or some digital things to validate and trust but verify everything you have to do.
I mean, we have all types of those clients too, right? We have escrow officers that have never met their client, but yet have been working with them for 3, 4, 5 years.
For the
Then we have
realtor, yeah.
other realtors that show up the day before a signing just to make sure that there's no traffic issues to get there. You know what I mean? So
And we still actually have people that show up for their closing with
Yeah.
the realtors that show up with their clients closing, which is
odd.
pretty unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. These days it's more unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you guys think about, this is a kind of a loaded question, but economically speaking, there's so many headlines about tariffs and how it affects interest rates. And I know that interest rates is a loaded question too, but like, what's your guys' perspective in terms of what do tariffs really do for loan products and home and origination? What does the economy really do? Whether you want to talk about short-term, perspective or like a long-term big picture, just educate us a little bit on that. Like, especially I think for the realtor community.
So I think the tariffs play a bigger factor depending on the market. Because in Colorado, we have offices there. I feel like that plays I hear about it all the time. It doesn't matter like what the walk of life is, whether they have a lot of money, no money. Everyone's making decisions based off of tariffs, right? They're buying a dishwasher because of the tariff. They're selling their home because of tariffs. Like, it's very odd. I don't feel like that same reaction here. And in talking to some people about it, it's heavy military, especially Colorado Springs. And so they think that has a lot to do with the reason why they're talking about it. In general, I think it can affect people with their businesses. I've talked to several people that said they get all their supplies from different places that might be tariffed, and it's going to cause them to go out of business. So I just think it goes back to all fear.
Okay.
And it
Consumer
depends
mindset.
on So it just depends on if you operate out of a fear mode or not. And if you do, then the tariffs are really scary.
Okay.
versus out of a knowledge mode, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Or really truly understanding how it impacts them. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people it really does impact them, so they do need to make a decision based off of that,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more of it. I think is more fear and lack of knowledge.
Okay. So you do encounter people that's a topic of conversation for them.
Big time in Colorado.
Okay. Interesting.
time.
Yeah, for me, tariffs and what happens in the government, it happens. I'm not going to shift or I'm not going to change it. Where rates are going to be, a lot of people said, hey, they're going to be lower. They came out and, hey, good for them. They're really bold. But I think they lacked a lot of economic knowledge of what's really going to happen with tariffs. If you ask ChatGPT or Google Gemini, what do tariffs do with the rates? They're like, well, it could do this, it could do that, it might do this, but something might happen. It's like, okay, so here's my thing. Would you rather make 0.09% on your savings account or 4 to 5% on your savings account? What would you rather make?
4 to 5%.
Okay, in order for that to happen, rates have to be between 6 and 7.5%. So if you look at the difference of that money, that's a better position for most people. Now, first-time home buyer that might have $5,000, $10,000, they're like, If I make 0.09 or 5% on $5,000, it's not a needle mover, but for some it is. And there's programs, if rates were at 6.5% and they just stayed there, you can get there paying a point. You can get there on some programs not paying a point. It's a healthy market. Will tariffs affect the cost of steel, lumber, and everything for the short term? Yeah, but it'll straighten out for the long term. And there's also bond programs that people can get in different states, like Idaho and Montana and Texas. Their bond rates, they have rates down in the 5%. That's great for first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
So it's always, again, check with your person. And the cost of waiting, if rates are at 7.5 or 6.5%, for every $200,000, it's $136 a month. And then what is the appreciation scale over 2 years? Say if it's just 5%, that's the cost of waiting is usually always a little bit more expensive than waiting for rates to get down to 3. Because no matter what, nobody here thinks rates are going to ever get to 3 again.
Right. Yeah. True. That's really well put.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes down to the cost of waiting buying sooner rather than later. If you can get in a house you love or you like and you can afford the payment, it's better to get that rolling sooner. I think there was a lot of fear with the tariffs, uncertainty too, that kind of people took a step back and waited on making some big decisions like buying a home.
Yeah.
But that was the biggest thing I saw. We saw rates fluctuate, obviously, whenever there's fear, uncertainty in the markets, they're going to go up and down a little bit. But at the end of the day, they kind of just hovered in that mid 6s, got up to low 7s a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, still better to buy than rent for most scenarios.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive what you guys do, because I think that for the last several years, there's been a lot of myth busting, right, in this business, especially on the lending side. And I think it's so impressive, your guys' ability to really simply explain things to folks. I think that is a true talent, and I think it's such a great virtue that you guys all carry, and it's no wonder that you guys are super successful at this. But no, really well explained. I think a lot of people toss around the buzzwords, and they don't really know what they're talking about, right? Or they like to believe that they saw something on Fox or CNN or whatever news broadcast channel, and then they really don't have, a grasp or a real understanding. It's just fear. It just goes into fear.
Well, and even, life goes on, right? Or life happens, actually. So there's what we talked about at the beginning, right? Someone, at some point, they have to get into a bigger house, downsize. They have to move. Things happen, you know what I mean? So you can't you control what you can control.
Control the controllables, right?
Agreed.
And the big thing about that, hey, what's it going to do to the market? Tariffs and what's going on, right? I can ask most people that are successful in our business, whether it's on the real estate side of things or the mortgage side, and their answer to these questions is going to be yes when I ask them. And we didn't talk about it. Are your credit pulls up month to date from the previous month?
Yes.
Are your applications up from the previous month?
Still going up, yeah.
And are you locking more loans than you did in the previous month, say January, February?
Still going up this year.
So the lead indicators are really what drives the real estate market. When I talk to real estate agents, how many leads do you have coming in?
Yep.
Here's in the mortgage world as a company, our applications and locks are up over 30% from the previous month. And it keeps growing. Now, what are some of those factors? People are just, I'm tired, I need a home. Maybe I'm not going to buy the bigger home, I'll get something that works right for me. Or you also have these factors of, again, there's 93,000 licensed MLOs versus over 400,000. So if you're out there and you're visible and being seen, your numbers should be going up. If your numbers are going down, I can tell you there's one common thing. You're not getting out there like Tom is and Jen, and you're not being seen, whether it's in person or on the meta platforms.
Well said.
Oh, really well said. Absolutely agree. We're kind of getting close to winding down here. But what is your guys's, one at a time, like what is your singular piece of advice for realtors to be successful right now? And for lenders too, for that matter.
I will start. I'll take it. Just do it. Right? Kind of like going back on
I've
the
heard
chat.
that
Hold on.
before.
Yeah, we might
Just do it.
we might have to throw a trademark on the screen for that one.
turn off the TV, turn
Good.
off the news, and just go back to basics, right? Make the phone
The
calls,
fundamentals.
do all the stuff that made them successful to begin with. 2021, 2020 was a blur. Values were going crazy. But if you erase that it's exactly like it was in 2019. It's not that different. It's just we had such an upswing that I think people forgot.
Right.
And so to turn off the negative stuff and just
Go do it. Yeah. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
They can call me. They can email me. They can call you.
Okay.
Any way they would like.
Wow. She just called you out. Sorry, guys.
I'm your agent.
My agent. No, Jennifer Tulcan and Connect Mortgage. I'm here. You can Google me. I'm
Okay.
everywhere.
Good. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you,
Anything
Bernie.
else you want to add
No,
that we didn't cover? I feel like we covered some great
covered a lot.
ground.
No, thank you.
And I'm
Bernie.
crossing off the I am shy, so we
I
don't
know.
need to
I
put
think
that
you were just
anymore.
messing when you did that. in
No,
take
I'm
form.
very shy.
Just need a mic in front of you.
No, definitely not.
Chadster, what's your singular piece of advice for
My big
success?
advice that when I talk to people on a national level all the time, I do a call every week with my team, which is about 75 people, and it's how to reactivate your database. People want to hear news, and maybe you don't know the news. And we've all seen posts on the Meta platform where you have in the green screen, it says, Forbes says this. You don't need to be the expert. Just repeat what the experts are saying and do it with a lot of frequency. Make 30 phone calls in a day. What else are you doing? You have the time, and it's just a mental edge that you have to get over. If you're not seen by people out there, and have the mindset on the calls that you make, don't think that you're making a call to get a deal. Make calls to reactivate your database, to just get in front of the people that are going to do something later. And then if someone says to you, it's like, you know what, I need to do something right now. You're like, great. Because if all of us call 30 people a day, we're not going to get 30 deals. But we're going to connect with 30 people. We're going to find out when those 30 people want to do something. It might be never, and it might be sooner than later. So reactivate your database. Use technology, learn AI. AI will never replace people, but
Never.
people that master AI will replace the people that don't know how to use it.
Oh, well said. I know. I feel like this went by so fast, and I know David and I both kind of wanted to do a deeper dive on just the technology, the AI side of things. So we'll have to do a part 2. But thanks. That's awesome.
We'll just ask AI to write that part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Agree with both those. Back to basics for realtors. Sit open houses, meet more people. Ignore the noise out there. Know your market. Know your data that you can, talking to clients about. But you don't have to know everything about the economy and all those details. They want to know the basics. They want to know how they can get into a house. Use a trusted lender. But more than anything, I think back to basics. Ignore the shiny tools and just get out there.
Yeah. Connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the best way to get a hold of you, Tom?
Call, text, email, same
Okay.
thing.
How about you, Chad? I didn't get to ask you.
Hey, I always just say, just Google me.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
People used to not like saying that. You
now
know that, right?
Now you can say you can
Don't
AI
Google
me.
me.
Say AI me.
Yeah. DM, Google me, or
Okay.
ask Bernie.
You guys have been amazing. Or ask Bernie. I'm everyone's agent today. But really, really grateful for all three of you here. I, again, cannot emphasize enough what a powerhouse the three of you represent in the real estate industry. Your experience, your depth. I mean, and also you totally embody what our podcast is about talking to practitioners, entrepreneurs, and what's the other one? Thought leaders.
Thought leaders.
And you guys embody all
think
three
about
of
it.
those things. So super grateful. I mean, this
Yes.
has been a
Thank you.
fantastic episode.
Thank you. Yeah, just
Any
great
closing?
meeting you guys. I mean, I didn't, know you guys like Bernie does, but thank you very much. Just great information. And for the most part, you're all kind of operating the same, right? You know what I mean? So it's good to hear out there. And back to basics. I couldn't agree more.
All right, you guys, thank you for
Thank you.
joining us on Entitled. Be sure and check out this episode. It'll be dropping soon, and can't wait to hear from you.
Yes.
All
See you
right,
later.
thanks.
Thanks.